Miguel Delaney of the London Independent is with us. Busier day than planned. We were just saying there. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, as you say, busier than planned. Trying to, I suppose, get some sort of feel for what the thinking is inside Liverpool. And
Yes.
it's funny actually. There was a buzz of activity because of certain social media rumors, or earlier today. What I'm hearing though is that Liverpool still want to take the long-term view and kind of, I suppose, keep measured about this because that has been the policy of the club in this in the under this ownership. But I suppose the key to this, and we've heard this so many times in similar cases like Mourinho 15, 16, even like I suppose a more extreme example on the other side, Leicester 16, 17, where clubs will want to take the medium to long term view and keep manager, but events can intervene.
So, a flurry of activity, I presume, when you're trying to reach out to everybody, be it agents or contacts at the club, and anyone else you care to mention. So you have it on concrete terms. They're going to stick by him for the foreseeable. Now, if he loses another nine in the next 12, they'll just reach a certain point. Give us a flavour of the kind of vibes you're getting.
No, it's Liverpool basically trying to kind of rise above it, but obviously, I mean, the line that's been said a little bit in the last 24 hours is, well, this they're not stupid, obviously. So if it gets like because and that's the thing, as much as a club might want to take a medium to long term view, as much they try and yes, rise above it, as I said, sometimes you just have to face the reality of a given situation, which is actually that it becomes untenable. And I've mentioned a few times when discussing this because it just reminds me of it so much from in a number of ways, which was really, I would say, the first proper post-title collapse in English, sorry, in the Premier League era, not in English football, in the Premier League era, which was, as Antonio Conte put it, like Conte's own great delight, the Mourinho season, 2015-16. And there were two things about that remind. Like I was at Chelsea every few days of press conferences. I covered that quite intensely. But two things I remember most that are kind of bringing back, or sorry, have echoes now. One is the feeling that every week you say this can't possibly get worse, and it did. And then the other side of it was Chelsea, like it felt like every 3 weeks, we had the kind of the media team onto us, or there were, you think at one point they even felt to release a statement, just kind of reasserting that we think it's a confluence of factors, we're trying to rise above it, faith in Jose. And then eventually, come mid-December, I think at one point they hit around 16th or 17th to the table, which is what Liverpool's form is tracking as now. They just felt that they had to move. Now in Mourinho's situation, because it's funny, I've been debating this with people a lot over the past few days. There have been more title collapses between 2015 and now than in the previous 2 decades. And prior to that, like English football actually used to actually have a lot of one-off champions. Suddenly like a collapse after a title wasn't that odd. And I suppose that was probably because English football had more competitive balance to it. Even when Liverpool won a lot of titles in the 80s and 90s, or sorry, in the 70s and 80s, there were one-off champions within that. Villa, Ipswich went close once, didn't win it. Even Everton's, I suppose I mean, they were kind of two titles that were separated by a year. That changed with the Premier League and Ferguson and United, and then Ferguson and Wenger, and then Abramovich coming in 2003. But now I suppose we're a little bit back to that. So like if you look now, we've had what? Chelsea 2015-16, Leicester 16-17, Chelsea again 2017-18. You could even throw one or two of the Man City ones in there, and obviously City had last season, but I think that's different just because of how pronounced their run was, and like there was a classic, empire building thing, and there's obviously bigger institutional features there, not least the ownership. Then you throw in Liverpool 2021 as well. Now, I am minded to think some of this is possibly coincidence, just because if you look at each case individually, they all have sort of freak factors. Sorry, they all have unique factors that are exclusive to each situation, that are almost kind of freaks in some way. Like in 15-16, it was really the first time the Mourinho spell had been broken, and from what I wrote at the time, that had actually started in the previous season when they won the league because of the way he spoke to them. Similarly with Leicester, like Leicester was really just a kind of a regression to the mean, almost like they were freak champions, so they were always going to go back. Um, but I don't know, there might be something bigger in the competitiveness of the Premier League, the kind of emotion it takes to win it, and obviously, of course, then I always feel a little bit odd discussing this, just because it's a genuine human tragedy. It almost feels like it's trivializing it to discuss it in the context of football. Yet that is the context in which these results are taking place. And also, we just have no idea how it's affecting the player. I mean, it has to have some effect. It can't not. People have theorized over whether this is one reason why maybe Liverpool are struggling with setbacks. So, like, it's almost, and this is actually something that I felt they had in common with that Chelsea as well. Obviously, the reasons may be different, but with that Chelsea, they had to score the first goal in the game, or else they were done. Every performance would just spiral if they didn't. And it's a bit like that with Liverpool now. If they concede first, it feels like they've almost got no way back. And I know they equalised against PSV last night, but even to go from that to what happened next is remarkable. And you start to get into kind of, I suppose, purely kind of more present question and maybe more purely football questions over whether Slot is the right man for this situation. I suppose then that's where kind of reality intervenes. Like he's never had to deal with any sort of setback in his career. I was talking to his biographer earlier, Mikos Guka, who's done a big book on Slot, and he was saying, yeah, there's been nothing like this in his career.
Oh, that's fascinating. And to be fair to him, he does seem reasonably calm, and he has a calm exterior in the main. I find it hard to, from the outside, see what he's doing wrong. Like if we were talking about Amarim, I mentioned earlier on, myself and Will and Ronan were talking here. With Amarim, if you're analysing him and his adherence to formation, there's something to get into there. Whereas Slot, yeah. I don't think he's doing anything crazy tactically when I look at the team. And that the team needed a certain overhauling after last season, I think is true. Most people felt that. And, you go through the 11. So they've no right back at the moment. Bradley hasn't really taken his chance. He's stuck putting Szoboszlai there, or Curtis Jones there last night. Szoboszlai to make an allowance for Wirtz and a bit of a messiness there. But like, I don't put that on him. I understood it. He has to try and get Wirtz into the team and find a formula. Kanade has just gone off a cliff. Like, it's actually staggering. Some of his performances last night, Palace away. Any you care to mention? Van Dijk, he looks gone at the moment. His legs look gone. Kirkes is not working out. McAllister's not himself. Szoboszlai, I think, is doing okay. Gravenberch, okay. Salah looks to be gone. Wirtz not settled in. Isak has never arrived. Gakpo good, and Ekitike good. But like, it's hard for any manager to sort out some of those problems. It's clearly not working. And yet when you go to like, okay, let's get into the Slot part. What's he done wrong? I don't know. Would you have a succinct, I'd put that on him. I think I'd love to know what's going on behind the scenes, what they're saying about him, etc. But from the outside, I don't see what he's doing that's so bad.
So I wrote this in my newsletter on Friday, which basically that one of the reasons Liverpool are trying to take a medium to long-term view is they think they've signed a lot of younger players some of them need to adapt for various reasons, and that is going to take time. That has been a factor, and they think, but they have thought that could be changing. By the new year, by next season, they'll be in a good place. That's possibly true. I think at the moment you could actually have as many questions of recruitment as you could Slot himself. I think they've left him with actually not a difficult situation, because no one would describe spending 400 million on some of the world's top talent as difficult. But for all the kind of excitement about Liverpool's business in the summer, it was said like, well, this is quite top heavy, and like that, and that's become, that's manifested.
Yeah,
it's a lopsided team. It's a team short in key areas. He's had to, and I think it's difficult for Slot, and that he's had to navigate around that. Where I maybe would have one criticism of him is that it feels like he's maybe been a bit indecisive. And again, this was actually another echo of Mourinho in 15-16, where Mourinho would repeatedly drop players to almost kind of shock therapy and then bring them back. And with Slot, it feels like, because obviously like Liverpool are in they're between eras really. They're between like the Salah era, or which is of course the Klopp era, and this new team. And it feels like you can't really. It feels like Slot is wavering between both, and that's where there maybe there's indecisiveness. And like almost for his own sake now, he's got to pick a best shape, best idea, stick with it, and even kind of say to people, I suppose, look, this might get more difficult for the next 10 games, but we've got to work through this.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, it's kind of, we've had so many variations. I think that's where there could be criticism of Slot. And I suppose the other one, I suppose, is maybe, and you're getting into all sorts of kind of like really speculation and a bit of pop psychology here, but the like his approach, his man management, whether he because like there was a line last season about how he in the situation after Klopp he was so calm, and the players felt he kind of like he just radiated the composure. Whereas now that in a different situation that doesn't look like composure, it looks like as if he's just not active enough.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a fair criticism, but I think any manager would be in that position really because it was such an overhaul of the squad. And, you know, on certain occasions, for example, Real Madrid at home, where Ekitike was the only new signing in the 11, that was one where he went back to the guys.
Yeah.
Robertson left back. My traditional midfield sub was like, this right back thing, let's get rid of that. And they won the game. And so... But then that's not viable. You can't have Isak and Wirtz and everybody else just not in the team. So you can see how he looks indecisive and is trying to chart the perfect balance of phasing out the old and phasing in the new and how it can look a bit messy. But like I said, I think any manager would find that very, very difficult. When you're talking to people on the ground, I don't sense looking at the performances he has quote unquote lost the dressing room or they're not trying.
No, that sort of noise hasn't come from within the club. I think some other teams, from what I've heard, are beginning to like they're noticing certain patterns. More so, I suppose, it's a team that just doesn't seem to be responding to anything. And footballers obviously can see when that happens, and that I think that is almost a greater concern. And that is what starts to force clubs to make decisions when basically the players aren't getting a response. And yeah, it would easy to say. Or sorry, it should be said maybe that some of this is on the players too, but it's as you know, it's the old kind of cliche about it, isn't it? It's easier to change the manager than the players.
Well,
if you need to alter something, I do think. Look, I suppose it's that classic dilemma, isn't it? For me, despite how bad it's got, it would feel like it's taking a short-term view to just get rid of Slot. But again, if they are getting close to like the bottom three. And like that again, that is why they're tracking. It's hard to see how you don't make that decision.
Yes, or like Champions League, out of their grasp.
And that's another thing about this because I say for about 8 weeks of this crisis, there's been this feeling that they're specifically struggling against a type of play in the Premier League that they have to solve. That the Champions League has shown that what they can be, what they'll be like when the kind of team fully clicks, is because they'll be able to play that sort of football against Premier League approaches, whereas obviously like Real Madrid don't play the aerial game that's become pronounced in the Premier League. But like the PSV game kind of stripped away those delusions. But it showed like, you know, the problems have now bled in everywhere.
That's brilliant because you've just answered my kind of final question. Because even within here, we weren't planning to do football today, and some of us felt, but last night changes things somehow.
Yeah.
And it was hard to articulate when people who thought it hadn't changed things were like, but they lost 3-0 at the weekend. They've lost 4 by 3 goals in a game, which ultimately is not that important. Why have things changed? But last night has changed something. It just has.
Yeah.
And it's hard to articulate because it is just another game.
Yeah, but like this isn't the PSV of like it's certainly the PSV of 1988. It's not the PSV of 2005. Dutch clubs are now it's considered like Dutch football is considered to have fallen behind Belgian football by like people in the industry. Like it's become almost sort of a development league for players that go on elsewhere.
Oh, they were so average last night.
Yeah,
like they couldn't put much together at all.
Yeah, and yet in the actual game, then it just this is it. You don't have to do much to beat Liverpool, and it seems like there were loads of moments where Liverpool actually worked themselves into good positions where you could kind of see the idea of something, but like they just kept taking bad decisions, which is usually a sign of a team whose confidence is shot.
Yeah. So interesting. We'll watch with interest. Before you go, we get lots of emails into the show. and we didn't even reach out to you until this morning. So like, this is just weird that this came in, Miguel. The message here is you just need to, a man of your profile needs to be careful at all times. Yesterday at 17:52. Hi lads, OG fan of the pod. About 2 months ago, and he emailed in yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't worry, this is not going to ruin your reputation or anything. There's nothing. Where is this going, says your face. About 2 months ago, I was getting a flight from London Gatwick, seated in seat 32E to be exact. It was a Thursday, flying back home to see my girlfriend, family in London. Typical commute, no frills, in, out, AirPods in, home. As I ambled down from the back door, a gentleman was sitting in 32D. Next to 32E, right beside me, a Mr. ... Miguel Delaney. The laptop was whipped out with a big portable charger. This guy meant business. As the plane was preparing to land, Miguel cheekily kept the laptop open as long as he could. One cabin crew member asked him to put it away, but the consummate pro that he is, he had to open it one last time. I tried to take a quick peek at what insightful article Miguel was writing, but I didn't get very far. The commitment to journalism is unparalleled. Watch out, cabin crew. Mr. Delaney may not conform to airline etiquette. All the best, Hugh. Now, if you were not on today, this email would have quickly filtered down the inbox and never been read out. So the world told me to bring it to you. There you go.
Yeah.
They're always watching, Miguel. They're always watching.
This is the thing when you start to do, one thing I've noticed from, especially like in the context of doing, say, difficult subjects like, ownerships in football clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Until I started to do the kind of Sky Sports regularly in 2022, you got a lot of abuse in social media, but not in person. That changed once, recognised by fans in certain clubs and like airports and things like that. And also, it must be said, many people are very nice.
Yes. Insert the vast majority of people very, very nice, etc., etc. Okay, so West Ham at the weekend, and then we'll see what happens next in this Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, on the classic kind of journalist dilemma there. I'm down to go to Chelsea, Arsenal, because it's a title game.
Can you do both?
Top two.
Can you do both?
You wouldn't get across from.
Okay.
You wouldn't get across from where West Ham is to Chelsea in time.
So what do you do?
I think I'm still going to stick with Chelsea, but that's actually been negotiated over the next 24 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting times. Miguel of the London Independent, whose work appears obviously on independent.ie as well. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. I know you're busy. Cheers.